Hi, and welcome back to another lesson. In this lesson, we're going to continue last week's tutorial on neo-soul chords and progressions. If you haven't watched it, there is a link in the description. But I'm not going to use specific things out of it, so you might be able to tag along even if you haven't watched it yet. What we're going to do is we're going to take a very simple melody with a very simple chord progression and show you how to make it sound sophisticated. And the melody is this. So it's pretty simple, and the simple harmonization, you can actually harmonize this in many different ways. I'm going to go with something that's fairly standard and non-unique. I'm going to play a D minor chord, followed by an E major chord to an A minor chord. And with the melody, it would sound like this. That's it. Now, you can of course choose other harmonization. For example, you can use an E minor instead of the E major. You know, there are many ways of harmonizing this. I just picked one and we're going to work with it. So, as I've said in the previous lesson, the secret to having sophisticated sounding chords is to use higher degrees like the 7th, 9th, 11th, maybe 13th, and cluster them kind of together to get this thick sounding chords. So we're going to start with the D minor, and this is the basic D minor with the 1st, 3rd, and 5th degrees of the D minor scale. Then I can add the 7th, 9th, and 11th. And we're going to start moving them around a bit. So I'm going to take this F up here. And I'm going to also take this, there's an E here, I'm going to take it up here. And I'm also going to double this C here and double this A here. And here's my D minor chord, which is my first chord. Now let's look at the E chord. And I have my 1st, 3rd, and 5th degrees of the E major scale. Now I have I'm going to play, this is a dominant 7th chord, so I'm going to play, this is my dominant 7th, or my flattened 7th, 9th, and 11th. I'm going to add tension to this chord, so I'm going to basically take this 9th down. So I'm going to play flat 9. And honestly, you know, I don't think I'm going to need the 11th, so I'm going to omit it. It's just going to be an E 7 flat 9 chord. And I'm going to take this, I actually covered this in my interesting chords corner. I'm going to take this B here up an octave, or double it up an octave, then this E here, double it up an octave, and I'm going to take this G sharp and double it here, and actually I'm going to omit the E and the B down here. So this is the chord I'm going to end up with. And this is my E. Now, so to recap, we have the D minor, and this goes into our E, which then goes into A minor. Let's look at A minor. So here's my basic A minor. I have the 1st, 3rd, and 5th, then I have the 7th, 9th, and 11th. And as before, I'm gonna basically move this around. I'm gonna take this C up an octave, then I'm gonna double this E here, and you know, actually, this looks pretty good. I think I'm happy with this. So I'm gonna play the 3 chords in succession. D minor. Now this goes into E, dominant, so or just E major, but with all of the tensions and added degrees we've added, and then A minor. Now I can't really play the melody and the chords simultaneously, So instead I'm going to just kind of hum it so you can get the idea, or maybe whistle it. Okay, so that sounds a lot more sophisticated than the simple progression we started out with. Now you can continue to apply these ideas to any harmonization of the original progression. What do I mean by this? Well, basically, we've played D minor, E, and A minor, and let's make this progression a little more interesting. Let's put in a chord in between the D minor and the E. And I'm going to put the B minor because the B minor is the two of the, if we look at the E to A as a 5-1, then the B minor would be a 2-5-1, B minor to E major to A minor. If you're not sure why I'm doing this, you can watch my tutorials on the 2-5-1 progression. Again, there's a link in the description. But my point here is just to show you how a simple progression can turn into a really sophisticated sounding one if you follow the principles of building neo-soul chords. So the progression would be actually, I'm going to play the B minor in the root form just to make it a little easier for you. Now, we've already kind of complexified D minor, E, and A minor. So let's look at this B minor chord and ask ourselves what can we do with it. So as before, we take the B minor, we add the 7th, 9th, and 11th degrees. And it already actually sounds pretty good. Let's just play it the way it is so you can sound how it fits in. Again, I'm going to whistle the melody. Alright, actually kind of changed the E and the A minor chords a little bit. Sorry for that. I'm going to try to be more consistent. Let me do it again. So it's not bad. I'd like it to sound a little more sophisticated and mature, so again I'm going to go for the clustering. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this D up here, and you know, I'm not sure I need anything more than this. Maybe I'll double this B up here as well. That's not bad, you know. I like it. So the full chord progression would be so it sounds pretty sophisticated, and honestly I find it satisfying, and we can continue to make this more complex and basically reharmonize the original melody. For example, after the A minor, we can add, let's say, kind of a 2-5-1 sort of progression, where we're looking, if this goes on repeat, then we're going to go back to the D minor. So we need to get to the D minor, and we can do this by doing a 2-5-1, which is basically I'm going to play an E minor, going to an A major, going to a D minor. So after we hit the A minor, or let me play the simple progression. Alright, so then this repeats. So what we'd have to do now is apply our principles to the E minor and the A major chord. So for the E minor, I'm I'm going to play this, and the way I arrived at it is, here's my E minor. I'm going to add the 7th, 9th, and 11th degrees. I'm going to take this G up an octave, then I'm going to double this. Actually, let's double this B up here, and then I'm going to also double this E up here. I'm going to use my thumb to hit both the D and the E. Now for the A, I'm going to play an A. Here's an A. I'm going to play an A major 7th here. And here's the 9th and 11th. And I think I'm not going to take the 13th. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to take this E up an octave, this A up an octave. And I'm going to take this E here up an octave. And this is what I'm going to play with my left hand. Now here, I'm going to play. So here's the 9, I'm going to play 9th here. So I'm going to double this B. And I also get the G sharp. So the G sharp is the major 7th. And here's my A. This is the root. So I've shown you kind of how I rearranged the notes of the original A major 11th in a slightly different way. It's on a different bass, which is kind of nice because it leads smoothly into the D of the D minor. And you can also think of this as a minor chord, by the way. I'm going to let you try and figure out which minor chord. Consider this like a mini exercise. So we'd have an E minor going to the A major 11th, and then to the D minor. So playing everything together, we'd get this. Oops, actually I played a different D minor to begin with. So you see how I took a fairly simple sounding chord progression and made it sound a lot more sophisticated just by following the principles laid down in the previous video. That is, use higher degrees and maybe add tensions to those degrees. That's it. I hope you've learned something interesting, and I'll see you next time.